My name is Joe Tillman. If you're new to the program, don't know who I am and what I'm doing behind this microphone, I've been in the hair transplant industry for 20 years, and it's been a hell of a ride. But what's even crazier is I'm a hair transplant patient from almost 30 years ago. So what I bring to the table, what I'm bringing to you, as far as my experience goes, is 30 years as a repair patient, a turnaround patient, with 11 years of working in the industry at a very high level with some incredibly talented clinics, and that's where I get a lot of my knowledge from. And my goal with this program and with most of what I do in the public space is to do what I can, however little it may be. Sometimes it feels like it's worthless, to be honest with you, but it's to try to save people from making bad mistakes. And I do that because I wish I could cue up the soft music, but I do that because I've been through 2 bad hair transplants. I know what it's like to make a bad decision. I know what it's like to put your trust in a clinic, in a doctor that tells you all the things that you want to hear, only for it to not only turn out badly, but also to have that clinic kind of brush it off as, oh, well, you just need more work. It's not because it's bad. It's because it's not enough. So I get it. And I'm hearing from people all the time, more so now than ever, where that is an issue, where they were, I don't like using words like suckered in and things like that, because I don't think that really applies. Because I do believe that it's a two-way street, and that's kind of the difference with my perspective on being a successful repair patient, having also worked in the industry. I do believe that there is a level of responsibility on both sides. And some people aren't going to like me saying this. But when you have resources like myself, hairtransplantmentor.com, when you have resources like the Bald Truth, the Main Event, Bald Truth Talk forums, hairlossexperiences.com, Specs Hair, who's got a great message, specshair.com. Boy, I'm going to forget someone. But the point is, when you have messages out there like that are not just every once in a while, but are consistent, like every time you see them, and if you're doing your research, you see them, it's saying the same thing. Surgery is a last resort. Do not believe guarantees, because guarantees are a guarantee of... I don't look at it the way Spencer does. Spencer Coburn says surgical guarantees are a guaranteed piece of S. I don't believe that, or to that extent. I believe it's a guaranteed opportunity to be disappointed, because guarantees don't work out. And when you think about guarantees, what is it they're guaranteeing? Now sometimes a clinic will guarantee that if the result doesn't grow, or the grafts don't grow, that they'll replace the grafts at no cost, and that's fine. It's still kind of an empty guarantee. But when clinics guarantee results, break that down. What results? And it sounds stupid, but you actually need to ask yourself this. What does guaranteed results mean? And when you see that guaranteed results, it denotes quality. It denotes excellence, that you'll be happy with it, that it'll look natural. But that's not actually what it means. That's what they want you to think it means. And that's what they think it probably means. But it doesn't mean that. Yeah, guaranteed some kind of result, but will you be happy with it? That's the implication. But no one can guarantee that legitimately. So when you are talking to a clinic that guarantees results, ask them, well, what does that mean? Results could be bad, results could be good, results could be whatever. What does it mean to guarantee results? What do you mean by that? Break it down. Because what they'll tell you is exactly what I just said. Well, we guarantee that the grafts will grow, and if they don't grow, then we'll redo them. Well, why wouldn't they grow? Well, they usually do grow, and that's where you can say, okay, well, how often do they not grow? And if they say, oh, well, that's not really the case, they always grow, get up and walk out, or hang up on the Zoom call or Skype call or whatever. Because every clinic, unless they've been open for 5 days, has had results that are bad results because it either didn't grow or it just didn't look good because of plugginess or what have you. So as a bit of a rant, but yeah, I had more of a segue. I wanted to get in on that one, but I think it's important to really focus and zoom in on this from time to time. And I didn't plan on talking about it, but just kind of worked its way in, and that's what this monologue is about. It's just, what pops in my head. I don't write this stuff down. I write down about as much as I do every Friday for the Ball of Truth. We don't even really talk about what we're going to discuss on air. So that's what this is about. I'm ranting based on what I'm feeling about this subject, about what I feel about this industry. And so to get back to, why am I doing this? It's because I have this, this misguided and naive hope that I could actually change this industry. I have made an impact on different levels over the years. I do take credit for most of you online right now, even knowing that microscopes are a thing when it comes to hair restoration surgery, because for years, no one knew what role microscopes played in quality hair restoration surgery. Before FUE became so big, people knew. It was just understood. It was just a given that if you're doing follicular unit transplantation, which by definition is strip surgery using microscopes for not just sorting, but refinement, meaning dissecting grafts. But I was shocked in 2016 when I made my video, was it 2016, 2017, where I was talking about Kyle Christie. And I talked about the need for microscopes in hair transplant surgery for hairlines. That video's got almost 700,000 views now. And every time I see people mentioning microscopes in chat rooms like Reddit, Facebook, whatever, forums, I take credit for that because no one was talking about it before my video. I take credit for some clinics actually upgrading and upping their game by incorporating microscopes because they didn't have microscopes. Some of them are actually known. Like you would know the name if I mentioned it, and it was kind of surprising. I had a doctor in Turkey. He was from Korea. We were in Turkey for a conference. He actually came up to me and he said, "I used to be mad at you." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Because you used one of my hairlines in your celebrity hair transplant disaster video, saying it was pluggy and bad. But then I started thinking about it and I realized you were right. So now I've upgraded. I'm using microscopes. This is a different clinic. I'm using microscopes, and you're right. It was bad. So thank you." Like he was thanking me for telling the world that his work was crap. So I do take credit for that. Spencer Coburn, my boy, he can take credit for introducing FUE to North America, which was a huge deal. And he can. I'll take credit for reintroducing microscopes to you guys and to a lot of doctors. So anyway, how's your weekend, everyone? I hope everyone had a great weekend. Mine was pretty busy. And part of the reason why today's show was delayed is because I was busy resetting my cameras because I did a firmware upgrade over the weekend because I was recording a concert for my wife. And I wanted some new features that were available in this firmware upgrade. And boy, did it screw things up for this broadcast. But I got it worked out. Let's see the other view. Yeah, there we go. My color is off on the other one, but it's because it's a different lens. I haven't set it up. But anyway, so I will be taking phone calls. The number is 1-833-563-4959. 888-866-4247. This is a call-in show, people. I'm here to answer your questions, talk about hair loss, talk about hair transplant surgery. Just so much to talk about in that realm. And a lot of what people ask me is repetitive, but it's okay because it reinforces the idea that hair transplant surgery or hair loss is becoming almost like rediscovered by thousands of people every day. Not rediscovered, but being discovered by thousands of people every day. And they have new questions that are old questions to you from just a few months ago. So looks like I got a call. And make sure... Caller, can you hear me? Am I plugged in? Let's see. Caller, you are on. Just make sure if I can pull this up. Why can't I... Hold on a second. There's something wrong here. Not sure what's going on. Why is that? Oh, I know why. Hold on. There we go. Gotta go right here, and then I keep gotta change this. Gotta remember this. There we go. All right, you there, caller?
Yeah.
All right, buddy. How you doing?
I'm fine.
Awesome. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's Polish guy.
Who? You just hung up. Okay. We're gone. All right, so that fell apart quickly. There it is. Okay, got on the call. Right on. All right. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Hello?
Hi, Joe.
Hi, is this Chris?
It wasn't... Yes, it's Chris. I was watching your Saturday live, and I want to help you one more time for telling me so much things about the hair transplant. And I got two quick questions.
Okay.
What is the best time to do repair job? Because in my case, it's 12 months now. So we think it's good time to do some repair jobs, or should I wait more time?
It's a good question, Chris. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Chris, he called in last week. He is calling from Poland, and he had a bad hair transplant when in my opinion, he didn't need one, but he wanted one. I understand why. But I think that, Chris, to answer your question, I think that there is no ideal time to get a hair transplant. It's not... sorry, I got plenty of calls coming in. Hold on. Yeah, who do I have here? Is this still Chris?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, sorry, I had lots of calls coming. Okay, another call coming in. I'll put you on hold. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, that caller is on hold. All right, so to answer your question, I don't think that there is a best time. As far as the way that your first hair transplant has healed and you've recovered from it, then 1 year is a good minimum to wait. But from here on out, like, you can take another 2-3 years if you want. It just depends on when you feel the time is right, based on your own research. Like, have you found the doctor that can, that's given you the confidence to move forward? So there is too early, but there's not too late, if that makes sense. You've waited 1 year for the surgery to mature and do what it's going to do, and you've fully healed from that. You fully recovered. But from here on out, you can do it whenever you want. Don't be in a rush is the main thing I need to get across to you, because repair can always happen, but so can rushing into it. You don't want to rush into another surgery, because it's too easy to be distracted by the hope of recovery. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. I know it's vague, but I can't give you anything specific because that's up to you. Hello? Chris? I don't know what's going on here. Did he hang up? Chris, you there?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
I'm here.
yeah, okay. So did you understand that? That makes sense?
Yes, it makes sense, and I'm learning a lot now.
Yeah.
So, but I think I know what to do next. So, and the other question is because last time you talked a lot about shock loss, and in my case, I had shock loss everywhere in donor area, in the recipient area. So, my question is, if I had so big shock loss, you think all the hair can grow one more time, or if it's big shock loss, the hair can not be the same like before?
Well, unfortunately, at 1 year after surgery, any sort of detrimental effect that you've gotten from the surgery is not going to turn around. Shock loss, if it's going to come back, it doesn't last a year. It usually will last between 5 and 7 months. But once you get to the point of 1 year, if you're looking at donor shock and or recipient area shock, that's not going to come back at this point. That's part of the damage of the surgery, unfortunately. I hate saying that. I know it's not what you wanted to hear, but that is the way it works. Or rather, that's not the way it works. It doesn't come back after 1 year. It doesn't mean it can't improve, but I'm just saying that you're not going to get a lot of regrowth at this point. If there's some sort of treatment, like some sort of platelet-rich plasma or regenerative medicine type of treatment that can maybe help to encourage some growth, that might be possible. But I don't believe, just based on my experience, that there's anything out there at this point that can encourage a turnaround of donor shock or recipient shock, simply because the reason that they were shocked out is one of two reasons, or a combination of reasons. Either talking about the recipient area, either the hair in the recipient area was being miniaturized already by DHT, and it was so weak that it could not survive the trauma of the interruption of blood flow, which is what happens from surgery. And they shocked out and just didn't have enough strength to come back. That's very possible. But in your case, you're telling me that the hair on top of your scalp was healthy. It was native density. It was native quality. There was no issue with it. And for everyone listening, the clinic that he went to was supposed to only fill in his temples, and they wound up carpet bombing the entire top of the scalp with graft work, even though he didn't need it, which meant that they went in and they destroyed hairs, which leads me to the second reason why you'd have shock loss in the donor and the recipient, is because of damage to the neighboring hairs from the surgical instruments that are used to cut your skin, meaning that they were careless. They didn't understand angle and direction when they're trying to make their cuts, which means that they crossed over and they damaged neighboring hairs by transecting them. And that's permanent shock loss from transection. So you may have had a combination of the two in the top of your scalp, and in the back, it could have been also a combination of the two, where if it's the shock from the procedure due to the interruption of blood flow in the donor region, that does happen even to healthy donor hair. So combine that with the possible surgical complications, and yeah, I mean, it's at this point, there's really not much hope of that recovering on its own.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry to tell you that. I wish it weren't the case. But that's the problem with your situation. You know, you've got limited donor resources now. You know, and honestly, Chris, in my opinion, just based on what I'm seeing with your photos, I think your number one priority is simply to remove the grafts that are in your temples, because your donor area, while it's thin, it doesn't look like you had surgery. The temples look like you had surgery. So the way I look at it, is eliminate what is obvious, and that's the temples. And maybe whichever doctor you choose can take some of the grafts that were placed into your temples and reinsert them back into the donor area into some of those areas that have thinned out. It may help in some areas, like find the areas that have the worst shock loss in the donor area and place some hair back into that to reduce that negative visual impact. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
I will send you some more of my photos, okay?
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks for calling, Chris.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. 833-563-4247. Looks like I got another call on the line. Are you there, caller? Hello?
Yes, hey, what's going on?
Hey, man. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Name is Jimmy from New York.
Hey, Jimmy from New York. How you doing?
Hey, what's going on? Hey, man. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hold on.
Name is Jimmy from...
Okay, just crossing up lines here. Jimmy, where'd you go?
Yes. You hear me?
Yeah, you there? Okay.
Yeah, it cut out a little bit. Yeah, my name is Jimmy, and I'm from New York.
Yeah, what's going on, Jimmy? What can I help you with?
Not much. So just kind of listening to the guy just before,
Mm-hmm.
talking about shock loss and whatnot. I plan on booking a surgery with Dr. Basanga when he has availability. Part of his recommendation was to do 2,700 grafts in a frontal hairline.
Mm-hmm.
And also part of the email was I can sprinkle, well, not sprinkle because it'd be 1,500 grafts into the crown as well, 2-day surgery. But my thing is I still have about maybe, if I were to guess, maybe like 15 to 20% density in my crown. So I don't
hold
know
on.
if
Let me stop you, Jimmy. Back up. You said 2,700 grafts for the front, and then another 1,500 for the crown, or that's 2,700 split up?
Oh no, that's 2,700 for the front, 65 square centimeters, and for the hairline, the frontal zone, and then another 15 for the crown. So it'd be a 2-day surgery, and it would be the total of the 15 and the 27. So it'd be
that's big surgery.
Close to, yeah, it would be a 2-day surgery.
Okay.
So I'm just, I don't know if I should just do the 2,700 and then come back another time for the crown when it's like more thin. Like, I mean, right now it's like very noticeably thin. I use, concealer back there pretty much every day. But he said I could do the 1,500, but I still have about, even though it's visually thin, like there's still a decent amount of follicles there. So I don't know if it's worth, hitting that zone with 1,500, or if I should wait, I would say another 3 years before it gets.
I just lost you. What happened? I just lost the call. What happened, buddy? It wasn't me. I didn't touch anything. Sorry, Jimmy. Give me a call back. No, not sure what's going on. I was just adjusting my camera angle here. I think that's better. How's that look, everyone? I think it's better. There you go. I think it's probably Jimmy. Jimmy, is that you?
How's it look?
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah. Who is this? What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi. Hello?
Yeah. I can hear your computer or your speakers in the background. Can you turn that off, please?
Yes, I did.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, so you're not Jimmy. I'm not sure what happened to Jimmy. We got cut off, but that's fine. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Wayne from Pennsylvania.
Okay, Wayne, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Right on. What can I help you with today?
All right, so I had several hair transplants already, and
Okay.
I'm thinking I want to get another one. This one is just a touch-up. Okay, so I have several questions. The first hair transplant I received was from Turkey. It was a hair mill, and all the hair at the front sticks up. I know that's not good. You mentioned it in the past. The hair along the front should be kind of pointing forward a little bit to look natural. but my hair doesn't look like that.
Mm-hmm.
It points up. I'm used to it, and there's a tiny portion that kind of blows forward. So what I want to do is remove that hair, like 10% of it. Just remove it, and then re-implant it. Have it pointing straight up, so it's going to be uniform across the front, the hairline. So, do I need to have the hair removed, let the scalp heal for perhaps a week, and then re-implant the hair, having it point straight up and down, or I can do it right away?
I'm just kind of trying to wrap my head around what you're saying, where you acknowledge that your hairline's vertical, you're used to it.
Yes.
And that's fine. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not going to critique that, but you want to take...
It is what it is, and now I'm not going to...
I get it. But you want to take some of the hair that's actually pointed somewhat forward and reorient them to match the angle, or the elevation, we'll say, of the rest of your hairs in the front. Is that right? And then
is that possible?
Well, generally speaking, yes, but I don't it's difficult for me to say about your case, so I got to speak in generalities here.
Okay.
But what I've seen it done in one session, but not in the same place, where grafts are removed and then new grafts are placed to kind of help camouflage and restore the area in one session properly. So what you're talking about, removing grafts and then replacing them back into the same, not exact spots, but area. Well, okay, so that's the problem. So if your incisions are made at such an angle where the grafts are placed, their angle kind of forward at a more shallow angle from the plane of the scalp, then the excision, when the punch goes in to actually pull that graft out, has to match that angle. So then the wound itself is in the same angle that it was to begin with. So then you want to take that graft out, and you want to make another incision. Or were you hoping to go back in the same incision? Because if you go back in the same incision, but orient it at a more elevated angle, that just means you got a giant hole that you're hoping the graft will stay still in, because you're making a much larger hole out of a smaller hole. If you want to find another spot next to it that's more elevated, so where you can make a more elevated incision, it sounds like a mess.
No, it's going to be in that same area. It's a very tiny area. I would say perhaps quarter of a centimeter by 2 centimeters.
Yeah.
Small little rectangle.
I'd say live with it, because it's...
What about this?
It's really... you're listen.
I keep on having to push the hair up. It keeps on
listen, you're asking for trouble, because I understand the issue. I totally do. But if you're looking to reorient these grafts in such a small area, I mean, how bad of an issue is it if you have to push it up? I mean, that's what hairspray is for. It's what gel is for. Can you not just live with it like it is?
I would prefer it to just naturally just point up, so I don't have to constantly think about it.
Yeah.
But what about what I mentioned earlier? Just remove it, place it somewhere else on the scalp, and then perhaps a week later, come back to that same clinic.
No.
When those punches are healed already, somewhat healed.
No. It doesn't work like that. It's too many variables. No one's done a procedure like that before, so you're asking a clinic to do something that they've never done before. There's no clinic in the world that specializes in that. There are clinics that specialize in repairs, but you're not asking for a repair. You're asking for an adjustment, and you're asking for it in a time frame that is unrealistic. It's what you're asking for in the manner that you're looking for. It's not possible. It's not.
What about if I wait
it's just not the way it works. It's a matter of months, not weeks.
wow.
It's a matter of months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, if it's a matter of months, perhaps I'll go to some other place, get it explanted, and then implant it somewhere else, and then go back to that clinic I went to originally.
Why involve multiple
3
clinics?
months later. Well, that clinic I trust, and
Then stick with the clinic.
Works for me.
Then stick with the
Well,
clinic.
It's a long distance to fly there, though. It takes 20 hours to fly there, and fly there, do it for a couple of hours, fly back, and then 2 months later fly back again. That's not really.
What is a good result worth to you? Is it worth hopping on a plane for 20 hours, or is it worth taking a gamble with another clinic that you've never been to?
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's fine. All right. I guess I'll just fly there and fly back. Okay.
I mean, that's look. I understand your questions, and
Okay.
when you're not experienced with this, I can understand the questions. I really do, and I don't want you to feel like they're silly questions or anything, because they're not. But what you're asking for is unusual, and I don't know of a single clinic that would do it the way that you want them to, and I don't even know if it's possible in your case, because the density of your hairline where this issue exists, it may be too high. Like if you had a handful of grafts that were bugging you, and you didn't have a whole lot of hair up there to begin with, like if it was a low density transplant, I could see that happening. But if you're happy with everything as it is, and you just want a small adjustment, I don't know. It doesn't sound to me like it would be possible the way that you want it to be done. So based on what you've told me, sight unseen and just the general 30,000 foot view, I just think that it's in your best interest to not try to seek perfection. And if you can style the hair to match overall, consider that a win. And don't get too greedy with the details. Okay?
I hear you. I just think I need to remove perhaps 30 hair or so.
I understand.
Only about 30.
All I can do is tell you my opinion. It's up to you to do what's right for you. All right?
Okay. And then I do have another question, though.
Okay, one more.
That's on my the left temporal point. Okay, that was created for me. To me, it looked a little unnatural. And then the doctor looked at it. I don't know what it was. To me, it just looked unnatural, whether it was high density, low density, or just something. And then finally, the doctor just removed some of the thick hair, and she was telling me it's the thick hair that was causing the naturalness.
Mm-hmm.
So when she removed it, now it looks kind of sparse. Do you think it's possible to go back to the clinic and have her kind of look behind the ear and along the nape and find some very, very thin hair and implant into that area to add some density? Note that I have very thick, coarse hair all over my scalp. I've been taking finasteride and dutasteride for 10 years now, and also recently I've added oral minoxidil. So my hair is very thick everywhere. Yeah. Well,
Is it possible? Yes. But is it advisable? In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. Because you got to understand that, and again, this is generally speaking, because I know nothing about your case, never seen you before. But in a lot of cases, the finer hair, if you take it from above the ears or in the nape, that hair is finer because it's being affected by DHT. Those are not considered to be, well, especially the nape of the neck. Those are not considered to be permanent donor hairs by most reputable physicians.
Yes.
Because if you're going to get retrograde alopecia, which a lot of people have in that area, that's where it's going to happen. And look, I mean, once they're transplanted, they may be fantastic because of a difference in blood flow. It might be higher in that temporal region where it does last longer. I've seen it done, but I've also seen how temples tend to thin out, like sometimes significantly over just a few years. So I don't know. It's up to you. It's also up to your doctor. Like, I don't know who your doctor is. I don't know what your confidence level, you feel, you trust your doctor, and that's great. If you're happy with the work, then that's good. But it is possible. It's just a question for your doctor to answer. Is she comfortable with it? Because not every doctor does this. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right.
And then I do have one other question, and that's on dutasteride.
Okay, one last question. I got other callers coming in, okay? So on dutasteride, what is it real quick?
Okay. Is there any difference in terms of efficacy for the tablet form versus the capsule form?
I've never seen dutasteride tablets. It tells me it's a generic because the original is a capsule. So my stance on that would be
that is oil soluble.
My stance on that would be that it's just like any other generic. It can be just as effective. It can be partially effective. It can be non-effective based on the generic. Because I know for a fact that generics are inconsistent. Some brands can be good, and some can be inconsistent, and there can be inconsistency from one to the next. So that's all I can say about that. When you say tablets, that's a generic. So I hope that helps. Okay,
I've heard that.
I got more calls. Okay, I got to go. You can call back tomorrow. I'm on every day. All right.
Okay, will do.
All right. Thanks, bud.
Thank you very much.
Bye bye. Hey, thanks for calling. You're on the main event. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, my name is Jim, and it's Peoria, Arizona.
Your name is Jim. Where are you calling from?
Peoria, Arizona.
Ah, Peoria. I thought you were going to say Illinois, Arizona. Okay, right, right on.
Yeah.
What can I help you with, man?
The other Peoria. Hey, question for you. So I have a hair transplant scheduled for later this year in September. I've had it scheduled for over a year, but
wow,
I am losing ground. So I guess I'll just give you a backstory a little bit. So I started losing. I was one of those young guys, 18, started losing, and just assumed I'd have the toilet bowl on the head by the time I'm 30. But I was able to somehow start and stop here and there, and then I started using the oral finasteride and topical minoxidil in my 30s. Recently just turned 50, so kind of holding on to like this Norwood 4, I guess you'd say.
Uh-huh.
So the products worked well for me for a long time, for probably 6, 7, 8 years, where I didn't have a single hair fall, or they fell, but like not noticeably, right? So it was a good thing for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But here about 2 years ago, I'm starting to notice a lot of hair fall all the time. Shower, pillow, just everything, and haven't changed the meds. Well, I have changed the meds once I've noticed that, but my body was obviously reacting differently. So where I was feeling really, really good about everything.
Well, hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
You changed your medication? Why?
I have just in the last year. Well, only because after about a year of that, everything was just falling out. So I started, I went from the topical. I didn't change medication until all of this started going south, by the way.
Okay, before you continue, let me ask you, did your medication source change at all? Did you start getting it from an online source as opposed to a brick and mortar pharmacy, or did the branding change? Even though it was from the same source, did the branding that they were using change?
Yeah, not that I know of, and I was thinking the same thing. So the topical Rogaine was just topical Rogaine,
right?
And it was the brand name. But I was kind of thinking that with the finasteride, but it was it was from my local CVS, and so last year I ended up asking to have the brand Propecia and just not deal with that. So I've been doing that now for the last 6, 7, 8 months. Really no changes, positive changes. Still a lot of shed, a lot of hair fall. So then what I started to do is I started taking oral minoxidil on the minoxidil side. So I started out at 1.25 milligrams just to make sure I didn't have a bad reaction. No side effects. I mean, nothing positive, but no other issues that would be of concern. So then 2 months later, I went up to 2.5. So I've been on that for 6 months, and I've been on the brand name Propecia, 1 milligram daily for 6 months, the last 6 months. But I also added in 0.5 milligram of dutasteride every 7th day, because, some people say that you can kind of just get that extra benefit. And, but even with that, still not seeing anything positive. So just still a lot of fall. I've even got one of those helmets, the Theradome helmets that I try to do every, few days. I'll put that on for just at least a minor assistance.
Okay.
And just not getting any positive momentum, still a lot of fall. And I guess my question is, and again, I went through so many years where I was stabilized, where I felt really, really good. And now I'm just kind of the opposite, where it's moving fast in the wrong direction.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if I'm a good candidate for a hair. Well, I know you can't tell me if I'm a good candidate, but what else I can do. And by the way, I should tell you that I've just, as of this past weekend, started doing 5 milligram of oral dutasteride. Not dutasteride, minoxidil. So I'll do 2.5 in the morning, 2.5 at night, because I don't have any negative side effects from it. I don't have any of the heart issues or the leg swelling or anything like that.
I get it. Stop right there.
Yeah.
All right. So when you're making these changes, how long are you waiting in between changes?
Yeah, it's been about 6 months, 7 months.
6 months ago, you started the 1.25 oral minoxidil. You just switched up to 2.5.
I was on the 2.5 for 6 months. And so 6 months ago, I was on 2.5. So since last October.
Okay.
And then I just went on the 5 just this weekend.
Okay. Where did I hear 1.25?
Oh, I did that for 1 month just to make sure I didn't have a negative reaction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry. So 1 month, 1.25, 6 months, 2.5, and just got on to 5. And then how long ago did you add the 0.5 once a week dutasteride?
About the same time frame, around 6 months ago, 7 months ago.
Okay.
It was it was October.
All right. When you say that you've got hair, by the way, where did you hear the term hair fall? Have you been reading a lot of Indian websites? Because that's the only place I've heard anyone talk about hair loss or hair falling out as hair fall.
Yeah, I don't know. I hear it hair fall. I hear shed. I hear hair loss.
I don't hear an Indian accent here. I just don't get it. Anyway,
it all kind of looks the same on my head.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it all looks the same. I'm just teasing you. But so let me ask you this: how dense is your hair? Do you have like thick donor hair?
Yeah, it's really thick. It's really coarse. In fact, up until 2 or 3 years ago, so I was one of those guys that lost everything in the front. Like I went from, in my 20s, I was already like the Norwood 3 going on 4, like everything in front. But the crown and the top was pretty thick, where you couldn't find my scalp if you wanted to. You could kind of just comb your hair through it. And so really coarse, really thick. And that's kind of why I thought I'd be a good candidate for the hair transplant, because even my donor hair is kind of coarse, sort of that, not fine at all. But now I'm starting to see everything get thinner on top. So
you said you're a Norwood 4, which tells me that the front is gone. You got a small patch in the crown and a strong bridge. Does that describe you accurately? Yeah,
but that bridge is becoming weaker by the week.
Okay, is it coming weaker by the week because you're seeing continued hair loss, or you're actually visualizing the degradation and the decrease in density in that area? Because they're two different things.
Well, I'm seeing the loss, because even if I just try to just push my fingers through it, you can just tell, right? You can't do much with it. You can't.
But how does it?
You're styling
but
it.
Tell me about the visual. Is it visually different than it was 6 months ago, or visually different than it was a year ago?
Yeah, because even in the light, prior to just a couple of years, 2 years ago, you couldn't even really see my scalp.
Okay.
And now in the light, I can see it.
All right. So next questions. What's your nutrition like? Do you eat a lot of pizza, Subway, processed foods, deli sandwiches for lunch?
A lot of deli sandwiches, but relatively healthy. I mean, it's basically like the same lunch 4 or 5 days a week. A lot of turkey, onions, peppers, tomato, a lot of vegetables.
Okay, what kind of turkey? Is it like deli turkey?
It is deli turkey. Yeah, it is deli turkey.
Okay,
yeah.
That's crap. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
right.
Lots of sodium. Like, it tastes great, man. I used to eat, give me a Dagwood any day. I love a good sandwich. Oh, yeah. I love a good sandwich. I'm thinking about it now. It's like, shit, I miss having sandwiches. But they're bad, man. They're bad.
Yeah.
They're bad. So much stuff in those things that is just not good for you. And I'm not saying that's related to this, but in general, if that's the kind of nutrition level that you're dealing with on a daily basis, you eat breakfast? What do you eat for breakfast?
Basically eggs and coffee.
Okay. What do you? And lunch is some sort of sandwich, like a turkey sandwich.
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you eat for dinner?
No bread though. I just roll them up. I just throw everything and roll it up. So.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. But I don't really do any carbs. Dinners are a lot of the same. I'll make chicken breasts, or sometimes I'll. What I don't get a lot is a lot of beef. So I've been having to watch my iron levels. Just don't get a lot of beef. I've got a child that's allergic to beef, of all things. So not a lot of beef in the house.
You got a what? Yeah, I mean, you got a what towards beef?
A child that's allergic to certain foods, and beef just happens to be one of them. So
okay,
don't have it in the house.
All right, now we're on to something. So do you have any allergies yourself?
I don't. I have no allergies
that you know of.
Yeah, I've gotten tested over the years.
Okay.
Because, I don't seem to have any.
Okay. Well, but you know where I'm going with this. So gut. So here, go Joe, go. So look, I have no evidence to back this up. All right. I don't have the time, much less the desire, to commission a study for something like this. Not to mention, it's also expensive to do a proper study. But look, when you aren't picky about your intake, and I'm saying this in relation to today's world, because in today's world, when you think about it, you have to be careful not to put a bunch of crap in your body when you're eating lunch, when you're eating dinner, when you're eating breakfast, because it's so easy to eat crap. It's everywhere. And I'm going to tell you my own personal experience with hair health. And this does not relate to hair falling out, because this personal revelation didn't happen until well after I went bald as F. It wasn't until I was in my early 40s, 12 years ago, about 40 years old, 12, 13 years ago, that I realized this, or I was taught this, that nutrition is everything. Even with strength training in the gym, if you want to lose weight and gain muscle, it's 80% nutrition. Not so much actually lifting. And it's true. And so when I changed my nutrition habits, in the first 4 months that I was in the gym, I lost 30 pounds, which is stupid crazy. I've never lost that much weight in my life. I didn't need to, but I did. I went from around 190 to just over 160. And I was lean as F. It's not sweet to me, but it actually is. Anyway, long story short, if you clean up your nutrition habits and do that for 6 months, that might help. It might not. But your hair, the hair that you have now, might look and feel stronger, and it may slow down the shedding. Now, if it doesn't, it doesn't mean it's not a good habit to keep at, keep up with the habits. But I think that there is something to it, because when you have all these preservatives coming into your body through processed meats and these chemicals that they're putting in foods that really we don't need, you can have low-grade chronic internal inflammation that can cause some hair loss. And so it may or may not be a part of your issue because you're trying everything. Like you've got the dutasteride, you got the oral minoxidil, you got proper Propecia. So what else could it be? Maybe you do have an iron deficiency. Maybe you do have potentially some other imbalance. So, look at the nutrition aspect of it, but also talk to your doctor about doing another blood panel. Or you said that you've been tested for allergies, but do a blood panel on your iron levels and your hormone levels and see if there's something else there. Because there really is no other reason why your hair will be falling out. The DHT front is taken care of. The blood flow issue or blood flow area, that's also addressed through the minoxidil. So maybe it's some sort of internal issue that's going on as a reaction to something, or maybe not enough something. Maybe there's a hormone imbalance going on. Maybe there's an iron deficiency. Maybe there's a thyroid issue. Probably not, especially if your donor is really strong. But these are all worth looking at because the more things that you can eliminate, the closer you get to a potential reason for what's going on. So back to your original question, should you stop or postpone or cancel your surgery? It's when? September?
Yeah, September.
Yeah, I don't think so. Not yet. Because you got plenty of time.
It's interesting you mentioned the inflammation because I have had this sort of like annoying scalp itch for a while now, and I just can't quite pinpoint it. I've gone to my dermatologist asking if there's any sort of visible inflammation, any sort of redness, and the feedback I get is everything looks great, everything looks fine. It
when
looks
you're
like
good,
a healthy scalp.
You're good. I knew we'd touch on something. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. But no, there is that. So if you've got this itch, then guess what? There is a correlation between scalp itch. Does it feel like it burns?
It just kind of comes and goes. No, it's not like a drastic itch.
No. I'm not talking about anything drastic. But does it feel like it's an itch that keeps coming back, and there's sometimes, not every time, but sometimes maybe almost like a slight burning sensation, not like a match is held up to like a blowtorch or anything, but almost like remnants of a sunburn that still feels like it's burned.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Okay. I say that because there are patients that do report exactly what you're talking about, but they'll also go on, some of them will also go on to mention that they feel like they have a burning sensation. And that's something that a dermatologist that specializes in hair would be better to address as opposed to just a standard dermatologist, because dermatology itself, most dermatologists don't really know much about hair. They know the basics. They know more than most people, but they know the basics about hair, but not hair loss causes. Not on that level. So you're in Arizona, right?
Yes.
Where's Peoria? Peoria is outside of, hold on.
Just outside of
Phoenix.
Yes.
Okay. So you got some good doctors in the area. You got IHRS accepted member, Dr. Sharon Keene. Full disclosure, she works with me. She's a member of my website, so she does pay a monthly fee, but it's because I think that she's a fantastic physician. She'd be a great person to talk to about this. I do recommend that you contact her and say, hey, I'd like to come in for consultation, and then tell her your problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, you got Dr. Alexander, who's also there in Phoenix. Good man, good doctor. Have him check it out.
Yeah.
And see if either one of them can give you a recommendation. If they're not versed enough in that specific issue, I think Dr. Keene might be, then they can refer you to a dermatologist that would be, but start off with that and go from there. Yeah. Who you schedule with, by the way?
Shapiro, actually, in Minnesota.
Okay. Did you talk to him about it?
I've been talking to his Matt.
Matt, yeah.
Who is
Zoop.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zoop. And what did Matt say about it?
A lot of feedback over the last few months. Kind of a lot of stay the course, and try to get it regulated. I don't, there wasn't anything specific, right? As far as
I know Matt. I like Matt. He's a good man. I would pick up the phone, call him, and say, look, I spoke to Joe, and he suggested that I reiterate my issue to you, and have you talk to Dr. Shapiro, or better yet, see if I can talk to Dr. Shapiro, because I'm scared. Like, I'm concerned because I'm scheduled with you guys in September. I still don't have this under control, and I want to make sure it is under control before I go under the knife. And it's a perfectly reasonable request, and he'll agree with you. He'll say, okay, yeah, you're right. Let's do this. I suspect you haven't discussed it with him in this level of detail. Is that?
No, but I did make an appointment, and I am visiting the clinic next month. So in about 3 weeks, I'm actually flying out there to do an in-person visit.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Tell Dr. Shapiro what you think. Tell him what I said, and he will. I like his approach. Like he'll look at it. He'll pull out the scopes, and he'll look, and hopefully he can come up with some ideas. One last question. Have you ever been, this will sound weird, you ever been hit in the head?
I do have a brother, so yeah, we used to fight a lot. No, nothing, probably not what you're thinking about, no.
Okay. All right. You know where I was going with that?
Well, I have some ideas, yeah, but no, nothing significant that would relate to this.
Okay.
So.
All right. Fair enough.
Hey, I do have Joe, real quick. So because I was having good success on finasteride and then it just kind of stopped, would you recommend moving up to like 2 milligrams of finasteride, or just moving over to dutasteride, the 0.5?
I think that if you get your blood panel taken care of, that'll help you answer that question, because if your DHT levels are already pretty low, then it makes no... Well, I can't say it doesn't make any sense, because it depends on the sensitivity of your follicles to DHT. So, and this is something that I've thought about a lot, where people in your situation, you're taking, the full amount of finasteride, or in some cases, patients are taking dutasteride every day, which is even more effective at reducing DHT, and their DHT levels are indeed low after a blood panel, but they're still losing their hair. There's also the possibility that, that could be an issue, just the dosage, because your follicles are just really sensitive to DHT. Overly sensitive than the average patient, to where maybe an increase in dosage would help, like reducing the amount of DHT in your system further. So I don't know. Like that's a problem. There's no clear-cut answer, especially on situations like yours. I've heard of this. I've seen these situations many times. Not so much. Well, I've heard of it a few times where everything's working fine, and then suddenly something develops, like the itch. Did the itch occur after you started losing your hair while you're on finasteride?
No. The itch had been on and off for a while, but it's gotten worse just over the last few years.
But my question is, does it coincide with the unexplained hair loss while on medication?
No, I think it's just a coincidence. The timing, it's kind of been around a while. And,
okay. All right. Well,
one last question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you don't mind, just kind of related to everything else with the inflammation. Has there been any studies that you know of that tie any of this back to, like, say, alcohol, overindulging, that sort of thing? And I ask that because
you're an alcoholic?
Well, I'm not going to say that. No. But I do enjoy the happy hours with friends and things like that. And, we do that from time to time. And so I still do the no carb, the no sugar workout, at least an hour or two every day, but I do that. So I don't know if that is a contributor or not.
Yeah. It could be, but I don't know, because,
Yeah.
I mean, the answer to that would be to stop drinking for, I'd give it 2 months, just to see. Yeah. But I don't recall off the top of my head any sort of specific link that's been discussed between alcohol consumption and what you're going through. But again, it could be some sort of low-grade, allergic reaction. Mm-hmm. Who knows? Especially if you have, what's your background? What's your ethnicity?
Just I guess European if you trace it back.
You're a pasty white mutt. Okay, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing specific, honestly.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, it could be anything, man. It could be anything. I would start with the things that you can actually measure, blood panel, hormone level, things like this. Have Dr. Shapiro check it out and try to eliminate as many things as possible. Like it could be some sort of cascading effect due to some sort of inflammation due to ingesting or being exposed to something. That's potentially what it could be. Yeah. It could be just a higher sensitivity to DHT. Mike Pedroza in the chat room said the itching is the sensation of your hair follicles dying. That's kind of what could be going on, but it could be several other things. Like I was thinking potentially some sort of variation of lichen planopilaris, because that is what some patients refer to during this process is an itching sensation. I was asking about the burning sensation. That can also be a symptom or an indicator. And that's why I was asking if you've banged your head in the past few years, because it usually comes on due to some sort of physical trauma. It can be some sort of impact. It can be surgery itself. Like LPP can actually manifest because of the hair transplant, thereby damning that hair transplant to failure a year or two later. It's really a bizarre condition. So those are things that were floating around in my mind. But look, you're on the right track. Eliminate what you can eliminate through testing. Mm-hmm. See what Dr. Shapiro has, and he'll tell you if he thinks it's worth going through the surgery before you get this nipped away. So yeah. Okay. You can trust him on that, and I feel comfortable telling you that. So good luck with it. Please call me back and let me know how this works out. Okay.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Joe.
All right. Thanks for calling.
Okay.
863-563-4247. That is 863-563-4247. Toll free in North America, and of course free, or not free, but worldwide, available through any, I believe, any global calling app that you may have access to. And I got another call. You're on the main event. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Who am I speaking with?
Fantastic. Oh, my name is Miguel. I'm calling from Toronto.
Hello, Miguel from Toronto. How are you?
First of all, thank you so much for answering my questions. I apologize for my accent.
I haven't answered any questions yet, and you don't know if I will. And no need to apologize for your accent. You're in Canada. There are a lot of accents in Canada, so I was giving you a hard time. What are your questions? What do you got?
Well, I'm worried. In January, out of the blue and without any real research, I went to Turkey for a hair transplant.
I'm shocked.
This was the end.
I've never heard that before. That's, my God, what the hell? Dude, you are one of about 1 million people that have done that.
It was kind of a story, On that clinic, there was like 3 or 4 people from the UK, two from Canada, one from somewhere else. I think it was the US. No, not the US. Yeah, the US. Mm-hmm. And we were just in the same situation. We just were a little bit bold, and we wanted to get our problem fixed, and we didn't know anything, and we were trusting the commercials and the YouTube reviews and the Facebook reviews, and we thought it would be smooth. Mm-hmm. At least I thought it would be a smooth, but man, it's been a nightmare. It's been painful.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Nobody told me what to do. I got a bag with serums and vitamins and hair shampoo, and I've been following that. But look, it's been 2 months and a half, and on the back of my head, where they did the extraction of the follicles, it's balding, and it's a little bit red, and it's been red like this for 2 months and a half. And I went to a couple of dermatologists, and nobody knows what's going on and what to do.
Yeah.
And
I don't expect okay, so for you, but also everyone watching, and if you're not watching on YouTube, if you're listening, dermatologists are fine people, or it's a fine craft. It's a fine specialty, but they don't always know. They rarely know about complications from hair transplant surgery. Most issues that come up after a hair transplant can be diagnosed and treated by even general practitioners, ER docs, things like this. But for things like donor recovery, they don't know really what's going on. They don't understand the dynamics, that there might be follicles that are like chopped up pieces of follicle that are stuck in the scalp due to transection, causing inflammation and causing the scalp to look angry. They don't know these things. So what they'll usually do is they'll prescribe, well, maybe we could put a corticosteroid cream on it to help reduce the inflammation, but it's not actually dealing with the cause. It's just dealing with the symptom. Things like this. So I just want to throw that out there, because you're the second or third person today to talk about dermatologists and the issue, and they couldn't help. Well, that's why. So anyway, sorry for the side rant there, but continue your story.
I appreciate that very much. By the way, I do apologize. I did. You came up on my feed. What is your name? Because all I see is the hair transplant channel, and I called you, and I.
So this is the first time you've watched the show?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
And it came up in your feed. That's fantastic. Okay. Well, my name is Joe Tillman, and I've. This is funny. Explain it to the guy that just called me. And I've been in the industry 20 years. I'm a repair patient myself. I'm also in Canada. I'm in Vancouver, and I've worked for some very high level clinics, and I currently work with about 15 different clinics worldwide, because I've accepted them as members on my website after I've reviewed them and determined them to be of a higher caliber and worth consideration. So I hope that answers your question. You can learn about me on my website, hairtransplantmentor.com. Click on hair transplants. You can see my full surgical story. I've had 10 hair transplants over my adult lifetime, and I'm a repair patient, so that's why there's a lot. And and I travel the world. I visit clinics and do reviews myself. So hope that answers it. So yeah, you went to the dermatologist, and your recovery at 2.5 months, you said?
Oh, well, yeah. So I had the operation by the end of January up there in Turkey. Terrible time of the year, really cold. And
you live in Toronto. What are you talking about? It's really cold in Istanbul.
Houses out there don't have any heating, man.
You can't say. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I've been there in the cold. A guy who lives in Toronto says it's cold in Turkey. You're hilarious.
Well,
okay.
I actually live in Kelowna. Yeah.
Well, that can get cold too. So.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, continue. Continue.
Please. Yeah. Okay. So it was terrible, and my hair didn't look too bad because I had nothing. But then I came back to Canada 2 or 3 weeks later, and then after 4th or 5th week, that's when my scalp on the back especially started to get really red. And I thought it would go away, but nothing helped. And it was itchy. Sometimes it will be sweaty. Mm-hmm. And I was in that situation for many weeks. Around a month later after the operation, I went to the dermatologist. And yes, indeed, he gave me drops mometasone drops, and cyclofloxacin. That's what I had. I took the pills, and the mometasone helped, but look, I couldn't stand it because if I will get one or two drops, it will get really itchy and painful.
Yeah.
So I only finished one of the bottles. I got like 3, but I only could finish one. I did finish the cyclofloxacin, and I think that helped. But what really kills me, man, it's the uncertainty. I don't really know what is going on, and even the doctor told me, look, you go and talk to your clinic. You go and talk to your doctor. And then in this clinic, I sent text messages, tried to call, nobody answers, and I sent text messages to the person who in the past will always reply very quickly and say,
of course. Of course they reply really quickly because they're trying to get you in the chair. Now you got a problem.
Yeah.
They're difficult to get a hold of.
Yeah.
Persona non grata.
And you use the same number now and say, look, this is the redness. I sent the photos, and then say, what can I do? What do I do? And the answer I only got 2 messages back.
Yeah.
One, like a couple of weeks back, and then the other was like a month ago. And they said, look, this is okay. Don't worry about it. Just make sure to use minoxidil. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all they told me. So I don't know what to do. Look, the redness is very slowly going off.
Okay.
The hair in my front is growing very slowly. I think it's 1 millimeter tall now, but I don't know what to do, and I wish I could get some expert opinion.
Right. So, what it sounds like. Okay. So you're using ciprofloxacin as a.
I was. Yes.
Yeah, you're using antibiotic, and so if that helped, then that kind of confirms what I was thinking, that you do have an infection in your donor area, most likely, and so that might be caused by residue that's stuck in your scalp, where your body's trying to expel transected hairs. This is just a guess, okay? But just based on my experience, you could have transected hair follicles in your donor area, and your body's trying to expel them, and part of that process is, unfortunately, infection develops. And so it's an ongoing issue that will be potentially difficult to treat. This is sight unseen. I don't know what your scalp looks like, and I don't know the severity of it, but it sounds like that's potentially what's going on. So what I would recommend that you do is you visit someone that is experienced with hair transplant issues. And in Toronto, I don't know anyone off the top of my head, but in Ottawa, and I know he goes to Toronto sometimes for consultations, is Dr. Rahal. I used to work for Dr. Rahal. He's very skilled with hair transplant surgery, and he could at least have a look, and he could give you a better idea of what the problem is and potentially recommend or prescribe a course of action. Because this is not a traditional if you are ever in need of more work, he would be someone to consider. But you need to get this initial issue worked out first. You need for your result to grow in. It hasn't grown in yet. It's probably barely started to grow at all, if at all. But he's a good person to know for the future for the treatment of your donor issue now and potential repair or fill in if you ever need it. So what I would recommend you do is you look up Dr. Rahal in Toronto. He's very easy to find, and contact them. Tell them I sent you. Give them my name. Joe Tillman said to call and ask for Dr. Rahal and make an appointment for next time he's in Toronto, or if you want to hop a short flight up to Ottawa, then that wouldn't be bad either. Ottawa's a great town. So, and have him look at it. And he'll be able to give you a better idea than just a general dermatologist will of how to treat it, what the issue is, how to treat it, and how to move forward. Okay?
Look, okay, yeah, no worries. Thank you so much for the tip, Joe.
Where did you go? What clinic?
Oh, it's called Vera. Vera.
Yeah, I know them.
Vera.
Yeah, I know where they are. I know the clinic. I've been in the clinic before it was Vera, before they moved in. Yeah, I know who they are. So, okay, I'm sorry to hear this happened. How's everything else though? How's the recipient where the grafts were placed? Is it looking healthy? Is it getting any growth? What's going on?
It's growing. So far, I got like thick, tiny hairs, about 1 or 2 millimeters. Some of them seem to be very close one to each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 2 months, 2 months and a half.
Okay.
I don't know how long. I expect maybe 2 more months or 3, I suppose. I don't know. But it looks healthy. It was quite reddish, and I got a lot of pimples on the area, but I treated them with Clearasil, and they broke off.
Okay.
And so far, it's reddish some of the days, especially when it's really hot. But so far, they look okay. The skin looks okay.
Mm-hmm.
I got some bumps on my skin, which I have no idea what that is. I guess I'll ask Dr. Rahal.
Yeah, it could be a number of things. But overall, if the donor area is the only issue at this point, then that's good. I mean, bad for you, but better than having multiple issues, which is common with how can I put it, with I'll say lesser clinics. So I'm trying to be nice here, but anyway, look, what was your name? Miguel.
Yeah.
Miguel. Do me a favor, okay? Click subscribe to my channel. Okay. Ring the bell for all notifications, because I am on every day, Monday through Thursday, and then every Friday I'm on with my colleague Spencer Coburn for The Bald Truth, also at the same time on this channel, okay? Where it's he and I taking phone calls, not just me. And you do that. That's the way to support me, just subscribing, and go to my Instagram and follow me on Instagram at Joe Tillman Official. Okay?
I'll do.
Okay. I appreciate that. Good luck with this, and call me back and let me know how this works out, okay? What you find out, what you learn, and what the remedy is.
I'll do. Just one last question, if I may, please.
Okay.
So when we have a situation like this, Joe, does it mean that the follicles will stay like this? Are they dead? Like on the patches I have, the redness I have, is that permanent?
It can be, well, permanent, no, depending on if this gets resolved, because the redness is a reaction to either the infection and or what the body considers to be a foreign body, your scalp considers to be a foreign body inside of it. So when those grafts, when you go in to remove the grafts with an FUE punch, if you're not careful, the graft that you're pulling out can be transected. Okay, so let's take, for example, you've got a 3-hair graft that they want to extract with the punch. So the graft goes in, and while it's going down into the scalp, it's not on the exact trajectory that it needs to be to get all 3 hairs inside the radius of the punch. So what happens is the edge of the punch might cut one of those hairs off at the base or somewhere along the journey that, you know, as it's traveling into the tissue. So when the graft comes out, there's 2 hairs instead of 3, or you got all 3 hairs, but because part of it was chopped off at the bottom, one of those hairs is not really viable any longer because the base of it is still remaining inside the tissue. And so the base of that hair is just a piece of collagen. It's just a hard piece of collagen, which is hair. That's what hair is made of. And it sits there in the tissue, and because it's dead, because it's, you know, your hair shafts are dead. Like, I don't know if you understand that, but the follicle inside the scalp is what's living. What sprouts out of your skin as hair is dead tissue, right? So if that's sitting inside of your tissue because it wasn't extracted properly and it's not attached to a blood supply, your body sees it as something foreign, like a splinter, like when you get a splinter in your finger. So what happens when you get a splinter? all this blood rushes to the area to deliver white blood cells to destroy whatever it is that's invading the body, because that's how the body sees this little bit of hair. So if that happens a lot throughout the scalp, then that's what can lead to this issue. So it doesn't mean that the hairs that were extracted won't grow. But when it comes to the donor area, this area might have experienced what's called shock loss. And you can actually find definitions for this stuff on my website under the glossary. It's the largest glossary online when it comes to hair loss and hair restoration, and shock loss is covered. So there's two kinds of shock loss, either from transection, where maybe some of the hairs that were not pulled out were damaged from the surgery physically, or there could have been so much interruption of the blood flow to the scalp because so many grafts were taken out, or the punches were so big, so there's like all these big wounds on the scalp that it caused that hair to shock out. Now, it can come back. You're at 2.5 months after your surgery. I've always told patients that whenever they have shock loss in the top of the scalp or the donor area of the scalp, it can take between 3 to 5 months for the first signs of recovery to show up. Right? So you got plenty of time.
Okay, that's reassuring.
It sucks right now. I get it, but unfortunately, this is the potential downside, at least for the short term, of hair transplant surgery that is rarely talked about, but should be talked about daily. All right, so
absolutely.
So you have hope. It can easily turn around. It can be very, very easily be a temporary issue for you. It can come back full and beautiful and lush, and you'll have these wonderful locks that the ladies will love run their hands through, if that's what you're into. So don't be in despair. Like what's going on now, it sucks. It's a bummer. Let someone look at it, maybe Dr. Rahal. But it can recover. It can be just fine. Just give it time.
Yep, will do. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Miguel, thanks for calling. Glad you found me in the feed, and I look forward to seeing you subscribing. Thanks a lot, buddy. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, likewise. Thank you.
Bye. 833-563-4247. That is toll free in North America, 833-563-4247. That was an interesting call from Miguel in Toronto. I hope that works out for him. Let's go to the chat room. I haven't seen any, I haven't looked at the chat room. James Bond, how soon after a hair transplant can I start taking a multivitamin? Why'd you stop? You should be able to take it all the way through. But of course, ask your clinic. I don't see any questions. You guys are having a good time talking to yourselves. Mike, yeah, he went to Vera Clinic, Mike Pedroza, the last caller. Brother 60, isn't the entire country, assuming you're talking about Turkey, a notorious hair mill? No, it's not. There's some great clinics there. Hi, Joe. Graham. Hey, Graham. Glad you could join us. Had a great call. Don't know if you missed that one or not. Anyone else? Fabian Caballero. Is it true you need around 5,000 grafts to fill a Norwood 6 pattern with a conservative hairline? More or less. I look at anything Norwood 5 onward or beyond. I believe you need about 1,200 to 1,500 grafts to get proper density as well as coverage. And when I say proper density, I don't mean native density. I just mean enough to where it looks like you're just barely thinning. But it's highly variable. I don't even like saying that. It's highly variable. Some guys can get away with a lot less. And it depends on how many hairs are in each graft too. So yeah, 5,000 is a great dent in that problem though. Hope that helps. Yep. Don't see any questions in the chat room. Guys, give me a call. 833-563-4247. That is toll free in North America and worldwide if you want to use one of your phone apps like Skype or I don't know the phone apps out there. I know it works on Skype because I've had some great calls from Skype. I think Chris from Poland calls on Skype. Yeah, so those are great options. See, what are there's some other things I want to talk about. I'm trying to remember. I was talking about my camera settings because I screwed those up with a firmware update, and I gave myself plenty of time to set up the studio because both my cameras I used for the concert that I was recording for my wife, but I had them in my studio, and everything was just laid out on the floor in their bags, and I had my tripods and everything. So I gave myself plenty of time to set those up, but I forgot about my firmware update that reset the cameras back to factory. So I had to rush to get those set up. So that's why the broadcast was delayed like it was. So I thank everyone for their patience. And like the broadcast, if you think it's a good show and you like what I'm doing, which is sitting here Monday through Thursday for usually about 2 hours, answering your questions, not selling you guys anything, not asking you guys to try a product or to go visit a clinic for surgery or anything like that, then hit the like button. Show some love. I could use it. And hit the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber. It doesn't cost you anything. And you're helping me out. Like Miguel, he subscribed. I can see he's subscribed. Appreciate that, Miguel. And ring the bell for all notifications because I am on every day, Monday through Thursday, but it's nice to know, to get a reminder, and that's what that bell does. When you ring all notifications, you'll get a reminder in your email and on your channel or on your YouTube app if you're watching it half an hour before I actually go live. Now, this week, I might be going live early because I'm trying to arrange an interview or a Q&A with at least one doctor this week and maybe one non-doctor this week, and they're in Europe or on Europe time, so I might have to go earlier this week. Today's Monday, so it'll be either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. I'm not sure which yet. Definitely not tomorrow, but maybe Wednesday or Thursday. It'll probably be, I'm talking like 10 a.m. Pacific time, which would be 1 p.m. Eastern, which would be, what would that be? I think 5. That'd be 5 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Off the top of my head, I forgot the difference. But yeah, keep that in mind. So anyway, no calls. Questions? Let's see. Okay. This might be a good one. David Anthony, years ago, had a consult with a clinic. A non-doctor did a micro hair analysis, said the hair loss is due to sebum buildup. Is due to sebum buildup. Tried to sell me $60 shampoos. Is there any science behind this? When he said sebum buildup, I laughed because it reminded me of a clinic that was actually next door to us at Hassan and Wong. And they weren't a hair transplant clinic. They were a hair loss clinic. Big difference. And the guy that ran the place, I think he sold it. It's not there anymore. It's being used for another company that is a surgical clinic, I think. But this guy in a white coat would come out. He owned the place. And he would pluck your hair and he would stick it onto a projector, like an old school, not a projector, but I forgot what they called them. They used them in my elementary school years ago to show not even slides, transparencies, and would project it up on the wall. But he would use one of these. I forgot what they're called. And he'd stick your hairs on there, and he'd focus it, and he'd say, "You see that little clear area on the bottom of your scalp? That's too much, or it's bottom of that hair follicle. It's too much sebum buildup. It's not. That has nothing to do with it. No, that's natural." So is there any science to it with using shampoos? No, they were just trying to sell you shampoos and any other treatments that they may have had, like lasers or whatever. So yeah, that's an old scam. It's been going on for decades. Dude, just change your name to Henry. Make it easy for me. What is the top qualities to look for from a surgeon if you had to narrow it down? Results. I mean, that's what gets your interest to begin with, are the results. So how do you determine what the results are? Like, what's important to you when it comes to looking at good results? Is it, I hope, naturalness? I hope that's your number one priority. So does it look natural? What defines natural? Is it a hairline with temples that have this large, long arc, like the wings of a seagull? I call them seagull arches, seagull temples. That's very common in Turkey, in some clinics outside of Turkey, but most clinics, mostly you'll see it from clinics in Turkey, bad clinics in Turkey. Multis in the hairline, bad angles, bad directions. You need to learn what a natural hairline looks like. In other words, what hairlines out in nature look like when you're walking around. And if you can find a clinic that can recreate that, you see it in the results, you're like, that looks like a guy I saw on the street the other day. Then that's natural. So look for that. And then find the clinic that does that. And then, if it's just one clinic, then, after that, it becomes, how are they taking care of you during the consultation process? Are they pushing products on you? Are they pushing you to have surgery? Those are red flags. Now, there's nothing wrong with, it's a very nuanced and deep subject, so I don't want to go into too much of it because it would take all day. But, the results are first and foremost. Are there videos as opposed to just photos? Are the photos smudgy thumbnails just on Instagram, or do they have a website with a dedicated gallery where you can actually see clearly? Like, that's important. Not all clinics, like even a lot of good clinics don't have such high clarity. I try to encourage clinics to do this, and my clinics I work with, most of them, I make recommendations on how to do that. I train them on how to up their game with their presentations. Doesn't always work, but yeah, I think that's the first and foremost thing to look at. And then just, how are they treating you as a person? Are you feeling pressured? That's not a good sign. If you're feeling pressured, let them know. Say, look, I don't feel like you're listening to me. I think you're just trying to sell me. And see if they change their tactics. See if they back off and say, you're right, sorry, I'm here if you need me. There's nothing wrong with that. If they just accept you as a patient without being concerned about your medication use, your questions, your concerns, if they blow off your questions, if it feels like they're blowing you off, like, oh yeah, we can deal with that, yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, I'm not crazy on that. Doesn't matter who it is. So yeah, that's a general overview on what to look for. It's much more nuanced than that, but I hope that helps. John Henry, ever heard about recipient site influence? It's a theory where recipient site location really affects hair transplant growth. For example, a hair from the scalp transplanted to the leg won't grow as long. Absolutely. Yeah. That was a big discussion years ago. The first I heard of it, and for those of you that don't know, what he's asking about is asking about a contradiction to the theory of donor dominance. And the theory of donor dominance was established by Dr. Ohrenreich years ago, where the theory is that the donor hair grows healthy because of its genetics, not because of the location. Or did I get that right? Like the hair in the back is genetically programmed to grow for life, and it's DHT resistant, and it is impervious to the effects of hair loss being DHT when they're moved to an area of balding, which was affected by DHT, which caused the patient to be bald. So he's asking about the reverse, where that isn't the case, where you take hair from one area and it's actually influenced by the place where it's inserted. So in this case, the first time I heard about this was actually with Ray Woods, and he was claiming that it's not true when it comes to all hair on the body. And he was talking about body hair. So on the body, the longest cases that I think he was talking about, you'd see body hair maybe grow a couple of inches on the chest. And he had a patient that had several surgeries with him for repair, and he used body hair. He used chest hair, he used leg hair, he used all kinds of different body hairs, and it grew like a foot long. He just kept letting it grow and grow and grow, and it just kept growing. And that was the first real evidence, albeit anecdotal, real evidence that flew in the face of the theory of donor dominance. Since that time, just to continue that line of thought, we've learned, and when I say we, I mean the hair transplant industry, that even traditional donor hair from the scalp is not always resistant to DHT, and after it's transplanted, it can in fact continue to thin out or to miniaturize, but that's not so much an anti-donor dominance effect. It's actually showing that the donor hair itself isn't always resistant to DHT. So that's a variation on that. But yeah, so it can influence the grafts. Another case I know of is my own, where I had chest hair placed into my crown, just a small experiment, and the hairs that survived do seem to grow longer, and they've actually taken on the characteristics of my scalp hair after a few years, where even though my chest hair isn't curly, it does have a wave to it, whereas my scalp hair doesn't. And it's in my crown. It blends in very nicely. For the first, I'd say 5 years, you could tell it, you could spot it because it was a bit darker, but over time it's blended and you can't really tell at this point. So I hope that helps. Broaderbond 60. Have you ever come across an elite clinic with no gallery? No. Let me think about that. No. The answer would be no. I have not. See. Sergey says, has Dr. Kuto ever been a candidate for IHRS membership? Even if not, would I work with him? It's a good question. Has he ever been a candidate for IHRS membership? I don't know, because that would require him to apply to the IHRS, of which I'm not the IHRS, and I don't know if he has applied. That would be a question for Spencer to answer. But if he did apply and if he gained membership, would I work with him? Because that's one of my requirements, and I don't know. I'll tell you a story about Dr. Kuto. I know doctors that know him, and so I've had discussions, with other doctors about him that know him, and they had some interesting things to say. I won't say if they're positive or negative, but they were interesting things to say about the doctor. I've never met the doctor, never seen him before. I know a little bit about his history that isn't publicized based on people that know him from the past. I know of 2 patients that went to him that I had direct dealings with. I was talking to them before they went to him. I had consultations with these patients years ago in London, of all places, actually. They were brothers, and they did not have... I don't want to go that far into it, because I don't want to speak negatively about the man, because I don't know him, and I don't know his work outside of his own presentations, except for these 2 guys. So I can't say whether I'd work with him or not, because I don't accept members as hair transplant mentor doctors or clinics based on photos, based on their websites. I have to, if I don't go to the clinic, I have to at least have an in-depth video tour behind the scenes. I have to have them record things that I specifically ask for that you don't see in traditional clinical tour videos, like where the clinic's like, hey, welcome to our clinic. Let's, hey, YouTube, let me show you my clinic. It's not like that. And I am back to traveling to clinics, so I would have to go to Spain to check them out. So I don't know. I don't know if I take them on. I got burned early in my independent career, where I accepted one doctor unofficially. I think I announced it at one point. I went to the clinic, and I left after 1 day. And I say that because my standard is I stay there for 3 days, spending time in the clinic, because they can fake it for 1 day. They can't fake it for 3 if I'm there. So this clinic couldn't fake it for 1 day, and I left and never put them on my website. So I learned early on not to make that kind of commitment, and that's one of the reasons why I only admit doctors that I've investigated thoroughly. I'm working with at least 2 right now that applied about 6 months ago, and they're still trying to get their stuff together. I had one doctor say that, and hopefully he gets his act together quickly, but he said that getting the information together for me, for membership, was like writing his thesis for medical school. Obviously he's joking, but it was, he wasn't happy about it. He thought it was going to be easier than it was. But anyway, yeah, so I hope that answers your question. Mike Pedroza, Joe, your new channel is awesome. Thank you. It's the same channel, just a different show. But thank you. I appreciate that. So anyway, I want to make sure that I want someone to call in, because if I don't get any calls here soon, I'm not going to sit here and keep reading your questions in the chat. So it is 833-563-4247. Toll-free North America, that's 833-563-4247. That spells hair, if you didn't realize it. That's why most clinics in North America, you'll see that their last 4 digits is 4247, regardless of where they're located. It's kind of funny. But yeah, toll-free North America, and you can call anywhere from Europe, Australia, anywhere in the world using Skype or whatever call app that you can use to call internationally. Yeah, and like this broadcast. If you like what I'm doing here, like Mike Pedroza says, that it's awesome. I appreciate that very much. Appreciate the support. Hit the like button. And of course, if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for all notifications so you know when I'm going live every day. It's usually 3 p.m., but when I have a special guest from a different time zone, it will be earlier or later. So being subscribed and having that bell set up for all notifications will let you know when that happens. And of course, I am also on Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram at Joe Tillman Official. And while you're at it, go check out my boy Spencer Coburn at Spencer Coburn. He's doing some awesome clips, awesome reels on Instagram, and he's getting noticed. What's his name? Andrew Huberman, the professor Andrew Huberman, pinned one of his comments on that video that everyone's talking about, where he's talking about the causes of hair loss, and I thought that was interesting. So it just shows us. That's where she's interviewed me, and we talked about women's hair loss, and she's a fantastic person, fantastic information. I highly recommend you guys go over there to Instagram and follow her at Women's Hair Loss Project. I think it's WHL Project. Do a search online. You'll find it. All right. So got some more questions. While I'm answering questions, don't forget to give me a call. 833-563-4247. If I don't get a call in the next 60 seconds, starting now, I'm going to end the show. I'll answer this last question here. Sergey asked, what about Dr. Lorenzo? Did he ever apply for IHS membership? I don't know. I don't know. Why are you asking me, man? I don't know who's applied. Let me look at a different question. James Bond, put the phone number in the chat. How about looking at the logo on the screen? It's right there on the screen. It says the main event with Joe Tillman, 833-563-4247. That's how it works. You want me to put it in the chat? All right. Thank you. Thank God. Was it? Yeah. Within 60 seconds. All right. All right. We got a call. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, how you doing? Joe, this is James. This is James from Delaware.
James from Delaware. Buddy, how are you?
Wonderful. I'm feeling good.
I'm glad to hear it. But hey, can you check your speaker or whatever you're listening to?
How do I sound now?
Much better. Very good. Thank you so much. What can I help you with, buddy?
So I've got a question, right? On you guys' last show, You guys briefly talked about, or when I chimed in, you guys were talking about the differences in machines that are used. So you have the manual punch.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Then you have the standing machine. The artist, it has a standing machine with a automated punch, and then you have the artist robot. And then I think there's different types of manual punches. There's a motorized punch. There's a hand punch.
Stop.
But
No. You got it mixed up. So manual punches are literally a punch that you manually rotate in your fingers between your forefinger and your thumb. That's a manual punch. Where there's no machine, there's no machine, nothing plugged in, no batteries. It's human power. That's it. Okay?
Okay.
Motorized punches are the handheld motorized systems, like, say, the WAW system, WAW, which is a motorized, or it's a handheld motor, and it's controlled by a foot pedal. Traditionally, it was a wire that would go down to a foot pedal. It looked like it looks like a wah pedal from a guitar from a electric guitar system. Graham in the chat room would know that. And excuse me. And now there's a wireless variant where there's no cable, there's no wire that goes down. So it's a like a wireless signal of some sort, maybe Bluetooth, maybe I don't know how it's got set up. But motorized systems, and that includes the handheld motors, like the WAS system. It includes the CIT system by Cole Instruments. It includes the Trivellini system, which is really popular. It's the name changed. I was talking to Dr. Trivellini about it last year. It's Dr. Trivellini's system, and it's the Mamba. Or it used to be called the Mamba, and I don't know. It's Trivellini Systems is who makes this, and then you have the standing automated motor systems, which are NeoGraft, SmartGraft, and those things where there's like suction involved. It's like a handheld punch, or sorry, what do you call it? A handheld device that's connected to a larger standing system, like you mentioned, where there's usually suction involved. So it's a rotating motor, and then it sucks the graft out of the scalp, right? And so there's those, and then there's the robot. Those are the different systems that you have. I have a video about this. You can watch it on my channel under my hair transplant class section, the playlist there, and I've got a video about that.
So my question is, when one wants to shop for doctors, can you explain the level of skill needed for each type of device? Because from me observing your channel, you and Spence, you guys get into detail about, doctors and their studies and, how much schooling they have. But I haven't really heard, and I know you do have videos, but I haven't really heard much about the level of skill needed for manual punch versus automated punch versus, the machine. I've actually watched videos on the artist robot where it, they do like a red perimeter, and then they do like blue coronal lines, and then they do red sagittal lines, and so it looks pretty complex. But I'm no doctor, and I do understand that when it comes to AI and the AI advent in current day, it makes it so easy that a non-AI, knowledgeable person can actually operate a system. It's sort of like a do-it-yourself. But from your perspective, can you kind of get into the level of skill needed?
That is a great question. Thank you. That's a really good question. The level of skill, it's hard to quantify. Does it require, a certain number of years of school? Does it require a certain number of years of, a understudy with a senior doctor. I don't think it requires any of those. I think it requires simply an understanding of hair transplant surgery where you know what you're doing. In other words, it sounds simple, but I think that the best answer for you is don't look at the qualifications of the doctor as far as their background in order to understand if they know how to use the punch or the system that they're using. Look at the results. Because I know plenty of doctors that have, I'm not pointing to anyone specific, but say a Harvard medical background with all kinds of plaques and framed diplomas and certificates on the wall behind them when you're seeing them on YouTube. But it doesn't mean anything about the work. It means nothing about how they avoid transection. It means nothing about the naturalness of their results. Do they understand that a hairline on one person may require 300 single hair grafts, whereas another person, it may require 500 single hair grafts? And do they understand how to create single hair grafts if they weren't able to find enough single hairs in the donor area for extraction? In other words, do they understand how to use microscopes to take a 2-hair or 3-hair graft and divide those into single hair grafts that will survive and look natural? Do they understand the importance of angulation and direction? Do they understand, the issues of desiccation, grafts drying out if they're not being treated properly during the out of body time? So your question's very logical. It's a very safe question to ask, but the answer is much more complicated than you may realize. But it doesn't have to be, because it's not what matters. What matters is the results. So I recommend people that are searching for a doctor to, there's some other things to understand, like, are there other people in the industry that have any sort of authority and credibility that say that this doctor is worth considering? Are there patients out there saying, yeah, I've had a great result and this is why, showing what you would think would be a natural result? And it goes back to what I was saying to a previous caller. Learn what natural means if that is your number one priority. If that's your number one priority, then you're in, that's a step in the right direction. But understand what makes natural natural. Is it angle? Is it direction? Is it single hair grafts? Is it blunted temple angles versus angular temple angles? Is it temple points? Is it, all these different things? And then take that and apply it to whomever you see out there when you're looking for clinics. And then you can look at them and say, all right, well, why is this doctor so good? Why are these results so good? And I'll use an example, okay? Dr. Joseph Yaker in Dallas, Texas. He's one of the newer doctors in my membership. I've gotten to know him quite well. I think he's beyond the review I gave him. I think he's very ethical. I think he's got a good eye for what he's doing. But this goes into his naturalness. So he studied for a year in, I think it was Massachusetts. I'm not going to name the doctor that he studied under, but he spent a year working in this clinic, studying working with this doctor, being trained in hair transplant surgery, only hair transplant surgery. And that's rare. Uh-huh. It's very rare. You don't see that very often. Usually you'll see, like most doctors out there in North America anyway, and I'm talking about today. I'm not talking about over the past 10, 20 years, but most of them operating today were not so much trained as they were so much shown how to do surgery. And there's a big difference in that. Training, meaning spending a lot of time with an experienced surgeon, being shown how to do it, is going to a seminar over a weekend. Okay, so that's a big difference there. So Dr. Yaker, he spent a year working in a clinic, being shown how to do not just FUE, but also strip surgery. And then he left. He moved back to Dallas, where his father is a famous plastic surgeon in the area, very experienced. And long story short, he set up his own clinic, and he's an example of the student superseding the master, where he's far better than the guy that trained him in depth.
Okay.
And what that means is the background doesn't really mean much, except for the fact that he definitely knows how to suture a strip, and he definitely knows how to use a punch. But the difference is his natural ability to understand what natural means, his desire and his goal to go the extra mile to create a natural hairline, to understand the nuances of what makes a natural result versus a okay result. Like, I'm talking really natural results here, right?
Okay.
So that's a case where the background doesn't really matter that much. Like, it does help to know that he had that kind of training, but then there's the schooling and all that, and he's got fine schooling, medical school. It's fine, but it doesn't really mean anything for the result. It doesn't mean anything for you as a hair transplant patient. So when you go look at his results, it belies his actual training. It's better than what you would expect because he is better than his training, if that makes sense.
I got it.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be based on the machines? I mean, because the thing that I was kind of looking at with the machines and when you guys sparked the conversation was, for instance, Afro curly hair, you may need like a trumpeted punch. You may need an angled device because of the way the hair curls versus you can't use an artist machine on, Afro curly hair or you may have to use a different machine because of the angulation. You may have to use a different technique, which, the punch may offer that technique for a specific area, So that's where I was kind of going with it in regards to the differences between the handheld, the motorized, and then the fully automated machine.
No, I get it. And there is something to that with curly hair, but it goes back to what I always say. The tool is only as good as the hand that wields it. That's one of my Joeisms that I've been saying for years, because what it means is the tool doesn't matter, because you can take the same tool and give it to 5 different top docs, and they'll all create a different result with it.
Okay.
Yeah, you understand? So, when it comes to curly hair, I like trumpeted punches or blunt punches for curly hair because it's less likely to actually cut and transect the hairs. But I also believe that if it's a tight curl, then you're also looking at a bigger punch. That's the downside with curly hair. But with a proper trumpeted punch, it's still a lesser scar than a non-trumpeted punch based on my own experience. Like I like trumpeted punches for my own case because the last FUE I had, it was that kind of punch, and you can't see anything as far as scar tissue on my scalp. It wasn't a lot of grafts. It was 700-800 grafts, but still you can't see where the extractions were made, even if you look exactly where they were taken from. So, but ultimately, when it comes to your kind of case, you need to look at clinics that have demonstrated ability with your kind of hair. So don't look at, pasty white guys with straight blonde hair and think it's going to apply to you, because it doesn't. You need to find patients that have your kind of hair to get a sense of, whether or not they know what they're doing, and go from there. The background isn't nearly as much importance as the result. I hope that makes sense.
Got it.
All right.
That's it for me. Thanks.
All right. My
Thanks,
pleasure,
Joe.
James.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thanks for calling. Make sure you like the program for me. Hit the like button.
Yes, sir. The main event. Here we are.
Get it?
Oh, yeah.
All right, buddy. All right. Well, I appreciate the
Thanks.
call. You have a great night, and call us back anytime, okay?
You got it. Thanks.
All right. Good night, James. All right, everyone. I appreciate everyone tuning in. I enjoyed the show. Got off to a rocky start, but it worked out, as always. And I will be back here tomorrow, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, right here on the Hair Transplant channel. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Ring the bell for all notifications. And follow me on Instagram, at Joe Tillman Official. I appreciate the support. I am out of here. Have a good night. Thank you.